Fame, fortune, and heartbreak, Gene Watson had it all. A country music icon whose voice could bring tears to your eyes, yet behind the scenes, his world was falling apart. A financial catastrophe, IRS troubles, and an industry shifting away from his roots pushed Watson to the brink. How did he lose everything, and more importantly, how did he claw his way back? This is the untold story of Gene Watson's rise, fall, and remarkable redemption. In the heart of East Texas, in a little town called Palestine, a boy with a golden voice was born. It was 1943, and times were tough. Gene Watson grew up in a world where hard work wasn't just expected, it was a way of life. His family didn't have much, but they had music. Gospel hymns filled their small home, and Watson soaked in every note like a sponge. By day, Gene was just another Texas boy, fixing up cars covered in grease and sweat. But when the sun went down, he had a different calling. Honky-tonks, dive bars, and roadside juke joints became his second home. He wasn't a star yet, but everyone who heard him knew this man had something special. Watson wasn't chasing fame, he was chasing the music. But talent like his couldn't stay hidden forever. The 1970s rolled in, and Nashville started to listen. Then, in 1975, everything changed. Love in the Hot Afternoon wasn't just a song, it was a moment, a slow-burning, sultry ballad that wrapped around you like the Texas heat. Radio stations picked it up, and just like that, Gene Watson, the auto mechanic from Palestine, Texas, was a rising country star. But Gene wasn't a one-hit wonder, the hits kept coming. Farewell Party, Paper Rosie, 14 Karat Mine, songs that weren't just played but felt. His voice was different. It wasn't just twang and melody, it was pure emotion dipped in heartbreak and honesty. From the garages of Texas to the biggest stages in country music, Gene Watson's story had only just begun. As the 1980s dawned, country music was undergoing a seismic shift. The rough edges of honky-tonk and the heartache-filled ballads of the past were being replaced by a smoother, more radio-friendly sound. Nashville had new priorities, polished production, crossover appeal, and artists who could climb both the country and pop charts. Gene Watson had built his career on pure, unfiltered emotion, songs that cut straight to the soul. But suddenly that wasn't enough. Record executives wanted something different, something bigger, flashier. Honky-tonk grit was out. Orchestra synthesizers and pop-infused hooks were in. Labels started to shift their focus. Country radio stations, once filled with Watson's deep, soulful voice, now had less room for artists like him. The industry was changing, and whether he liked it or not, Watson was being left behind. It wasn't just about talent, it was about trends. And in the eyes of the industry, Watson's brand of country music was yesterday's news. And then came an even bigger blow. Financial mismanagement. Like so many artists before him, Watson had put his trust in the wrong people. He was a musician, not a businessman, and while he was pouring his soul into his music, behind the scenes, things were falling apart. Bad investments, unpaid taxes, and years of poor bookkeeping had left Watson in a financial hole deeper than he ever imagined. The money he thought he had, gone. The security he had worked so hard for, vanished. For the first time in his career, Watson was facing an uncertain future. The industry had turned its back, the money was gone, and the road ahead looked impossibly steep. But if there was one thing Gene Watson knew how to do, it was fight. By 1984, Gene Watson's world was unraveling. The IRS had come knocking, demanding over $250,000 in unpaid taxes, a debt that seemed impossible to escape. The very industry that had once celebrated his voice now saw him as a liability. He wasn't a chart-topping star anymore. He was just another artist who had fallen on hard times. The walls of his home, where he had once celebrated hit records, where he had dreamed of a lifetime in music, were no longer his. The foreclosure took everything. His savings, once enough to provide for his family, had evaporated, and with no major label backing him, Watson had no financial safety net. He was staring at rock bottom. Desperate to stay afloat, Watson took whatever gigs he could get. Gone were the days of sold-out concerts and roaring applause. Now he played for a handful of patrons in smoky bars, barely making enough to cover gas money. The weight of it all, losing his home, his savings, his career, was suffocating. The stress of financial ruin didn't just weigh on his mind, it took a toll on his body and his voice. The years of struggle were showing. The effortless power of his vocals now required twice the effort, and every note felt like a battle. Gene Watson, a man who had once commanded the attention of country music fans across America, was now just trying to survive, playing for anyone who would listen. But deep down, one truth remained: he was not ready to give up. Not yet. Christmas of 1984 was unlike any other. There were no grand gifts, no lavish dinners, no celebrations filled with laughter. There was just silence, the kind that settles when hope feels distant. Gene Watson, once a man with a booming career and a future filled with promise, now sat in the quiet of his home, feeling the weight of failure pressing down on his chest. For a man who had once performed for thousands, standing in the spotlight with confidence and charm, this moment was crushing. He had spent years pouring his heart into music, but now, the same industry that had embraced him had moved on without looking back. Many artists never recover from a downfall like this. The industry is ruthless, and once the world moves on, it rarely looks back. For most, this would have been the end, a slow fade into obscurity, a once great voice lost to time. But Gene Watson, he wasn't done yet. Then in March 1985, the call came. On the other end of the line was none other than George Jones, another country legend who had battled his own demons. Jones saw something in Watson, something the industry had forgotten: talent, resilience, and a voice that still had so much to give. Jones convinced Watson not to give up. He connected him with new management, helped him secure gigs, and most importantly, reminded him why he started singing in the first place. Watson's voice still had power, it just needed the right platform. For years, Gene Watson had fought to reclaim his place in country music. The industry had left him behind, but his fans, they never did. And now, standing backstage, about to step into the spotlight once more, he knew this was his moment. The road back wasn't easy. He started small, playing honky-tonks, fairs, anywhere that would have him. But little by little, word spread. Gene Watson was back. His voice, still rich and powerful, carried the weight of a man who had seen it all and lived to tell the tale. Then came the calls. First, a new record deal, one that respected his music. Then, a return to the Grand Ole Opry, where he was welcomed like a long-lost brother. Album after album, Watson reminded the world why he was one of country music's finest voices. His songs weren't just melodies, they were stories, filled with heart, pain, and the kind of soul modern country rarely touched. His story wasn't just about music, it was about resilience, about proving that real country never dies, and neither do the voices that carry it forward. Gene Watson had lost everything, but he never lost his voice, both literally and figuratively, and because of that, he had earned something far greater than fame. He had earned a legacy. Decades have passed since Gene Watson first stepped into the spotlight. The industry has changed, trends have come and gone, but one thing remains the same: his music. His voice, filled with wisdom and experience, still captivates audiences just as it did in the honky-tonks of Texas so many years ago. In a world where music is often fleeting, where artists rise and fall overnight, Watson stands as proof that real talent endures. His career is more than just a collection of hits. It's a testament to resilience, passion, and the power of true country storytelling. His journey hasn't been easy. He's known success, he's known failure, and he's known the long road back. But through it all, Gene Watson never gave up. And today, he isn't just a legend, he's an inspiration. So the next time you hear a Gene Watson song, remember the man behind the voice, the struggles, the loss, and the incredible journey back to the top. Because in country music, the real legends aren't just the ones who rise to fame, they're the ones who fight to stay there. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more incredible stories from the world of country music. Thanks for watching.